And the talk is about making a sport management game in Godot. Welcome on stage.
Thank you very much, Luisa, for this introduction. So, first, a bit of history about the game. So, around 2020, I played a lot of Football Manager on my PlayStation Portable. And it really fascinated me that the game is quite simple. So, as you can see, the graphics are not great. You just see key actions. But the simplicity of the game still attracts me a lot. I spent a lot of hours. I was able to win the Champions League with Alto Adige, that is from the third Italian league to 20 seasons, a lot of time. And so I thought, this game should be quite easy to make, some business logic, some graphics, I should be able to do this. And so now 5 years later, I created the 99 Managers Futsal Edition, and this is my version of this game where you are the trainer of a futsal team. So for who doesn't know what is futsal, futsal is basically indoor soccer, so it's much faster. We have less players, only 5 on the field instead of 11, and it is a little different and more fun maybe. It depends on the points of view. But this sport has no game at all, not on Steam, not on mobile. Maybe there are some games, but just a few, and surely not a manager game. So I thought, let's try to cover this sport with a management game. And here you can see an overview of the game. So the game is open source. I chose the AGPL license, and I also use CC BY 0 for all the assets I make. Then, of course, I also used some sounds or assets from other people, and they have their respective license. And currently I'm using the Godot engine, but I plan also to maybe start slowly to create some custom modules specifically for the game in C or C++ for better performance. And then maybe someday switch completely to something custom, because also the Godot engine evolves a lot, and I want this project to stay alive for many years. And so I would have to migrate Godot version every few years, and that is some work I would not have if I have my own custom engine, but more on that later. Of course, it has no tracking, because who wants that? I don't, so I never use any tracking or something like that in my software. And also no third-party dependencies, so it also uses no plugins or, I don't know, something you might use, because, again, if I use something from somebody else, I have to maintain also that part, hope they update it along with the Godot engine and everything, so I prefer not to use anything else. And I also don't use yet AI, LLMs, coding tools for 3 main reasons. The first is the Godot engine has our own scripting language, that is GDScript, and it is really niche. It doesn't really exist outside the Godot engine, and there is not a lot of source code. That means the models are not trained on this type of language, and it doesn't create any code that makes sense. At least I tried a few times out of curiosity, and it never, not even the most simple thing worked. So. And then ethical reasons. I mean, my project is AGPL, and I want that the source code, that all the code that is in a project also respects the license. And I think it's still a gray box how this LLM produced code is actually licensed. And I think in the next years, maybe it will clear how it really can be integrated in an open source project. But for me at the moment, it is too uncertain. And my personal preference, I really like to code, so I don't want to review some code generated by some tool and then maybe also don't know how it actually works, because it creates maybe a chunk of code and I integrated it works, but then it doesn't work anymore and I have to read to understand that. If I write it on my own in the first place, I already know how it works. And the game is now on sale, on early access on Steam since yesterday. And I sold 8 copies. So I made my first money with open source software. I think not many can say that. And it is also cool that it could work. I mean, these are just few numbers, and I currently actually cannot live from this project, but I hope that it grows and gets better and everything. And you can, of course, also play the game for free because it's open source, and I also uploaded it to itch.io and FlatHub, and you can also download the binaries on Codeberg, because I think if the project really gets traction and people are interested, somebody will do it. And so I'm already the person that uploaded it to the platform, so you already have a trusted source, because I don't know maybe if the other person really distributes the right executable. And now a bit about the Godot engine itself. So it is made, it has the MIT license where you're really free to use it. You just have to put the MIT clause in and everything. And Godot has this special way to do things in gaming, so that you have nodes, scenes, and signals. So for somebody who never used Godot, it is kind of, you have a scene maybe with some actors, like when you can imagine a platformer, you have maybe the guy who is jumping around, that is a node, the whole thing you see is the scene, and then signals could be he touches the floor. So the moment he touches the floor, it emits an event, and you can then check in code what should happen. And so everything is integrated in this kind of way, and it's quite a modern approach, so older game engines don't have this, and I think it's really great. It supports 2D and now also 3D since a few years, and it's really good. This cross-platform, so you can play it on desktop, mobile. There is even console support, but that is kind of, since it is open source, you cannot really use proprietary tools like the consoles have, so you have to do it through another company that does the porting or something like that, but it is possible now. And the main languages used are GDScript, that is similar to Python from the syntax way, then of course it is different. But you can also use C#. I never used that. You have to download a special build of the engine, but it is possible. And maybe a big advantage of that is that you also get the whole .NET ecosystem. So you can also use libraries that are there, but I can't say much more about that. And the engine itself is written in C++, so you can also extend the engine itself with modules. So if you maybe don't like something, of course you can contribute to the project, but also create your own tools inside the editor, but also create maybe parts for your game in C and C++ for better performance. And that can be, for example, in my case, I have planned to build some stuff like the match engine in C for that it gets faster and is more instant. And in that case, I don't have to compile the whole engine, but just the module. So there are two ways to do this. If you do it in the editor, you have to compile every time the whole editor again. And with extensions, you can just compile the extension and then keep the editor as it is and run the code. And here a screenshot of the game. So here you can see, you can choose the lineup. Futsal is played with 5 players, 1 goalkeeper, and 4 on the field. This is the main dashboard. So as you can see, you get emails, you can choose the formation, find new players and everything. And here I want to show how this looks in Godot, in the Godot editor itself. So this scene basically in the Godot engine, in the editor, looks like this. And here you can see that these are the players, and they are then represented as a node here. And for example, this Wi-Fi signal here, that means that this formation can emit a signal. The signal will be, for example, I change the formation, so how they stay on the field. And so I can adapt that information on all the other parts of the game. And I didn't want to bring code because there's not a lot of time, but then behind the scenes there's of course also code that will work. And now some parts of the game. So as you can see, as you might already guessed, I was quite wrong about how complex the game is. It is much, much more complex than I expected. These are just some parts of the game. So I have a match engine that really calculates where the player are, what they should do, pass around and stuff like that. That is still in development and not good, but it gets better every day. It's just a bunch of state machines, basically. Then the whole calendar system where you have to also organize matches and see that everybody plays against the other and correct and all the stuff like that. And the transfer market was also really difficult because not only you are able to buy and sell players, but also the teams need to buy and sell players automatically on their own. So you have this all automated stuff, and I think at the moment, if I'm not wrong, I don't know if I fixed the bug, but after 5 seasons, the teams run out of money. So there are a lot of things like in the in-game economy where you have really to think about things I didn't know I would have to. Then there is the generation, so all the players and teams. I mean, at the moment you can choose the name of the teams with a simple CSV file, and then all the players are generated procedurally and also with a seed. So if you do it with the same seed, the players are again the same. But you can also put the player names as you wish in a CSV file, and then they will appear in the game, and the missing ones are generated. Then there are translations. So the game is currently available in 12 languages. And a lot of UI I didn't expect, so I thought it is a lot of logic, business logic. I'm not so good in UI, but at the end, the player receives the UI. It has to look good and make sense, and on that part, I still have to improve, but also was unexpected. Then save games are not so easy as you think, or as I thought. I mean, I already made some games before. They're just saved maybe, yeah, you're level 8 now in the file. But here you have, I don't know, 20,000 players with teams, calendar, transfers, everything that is saved on the system. And then you might also want to save atomically, so that you first save it on the disk and then move it to the directory, because if you shut down the system during saving, the whole progress is lost, and there are things that got more complicated. And it is the first time I wrote voluntarily tests, so this game also has tests inside that test the game and everything, to be sure that I don't make too much bugs and everything. And here another screenshot of the game. So as you might have seen, I really like the solarized light theme, and I integrated it also in the game, so you can choose the color theme of the team. And this is the calendar, so you can see the matches you will face in the next weeks. And this is the game itself. So here you see the players going around. I don't put a video, but you can imagine they just run around currently, a bit random, pass the ball, and then someone tries to shoot, and it goes to the goal. So quite simple, but it will improve a lot, I hope. And here maybe an interesting thing is that the plan of the project is also to adapt to other sports. And I hope, and I really think that it will be possible, that most parts of the game I can reuse in another sport, and also you, because the game is open source, so if you really want to cover maybe some niche sport nobody cares about, you can create now a manager game. Of course, there's a lot of work involved, but you don't have to start from scratch. And that is the plan. And so I hope, at the moment I have a lot of contributions on the translation side, so I have now 12 languages. That is really great. I never asked somebody to translate it. They just came by and contributed translations on Webblade. And there are not yet code contributors, so you can be the first one that contributes code and make it a real open source project. Because at the moment I'm the only copyright holder, so it is not yet really open source, but once there are more contributors, yeah, there will be a real open source project. And you can find all the info on the website. And I also want to thank you for coming here and paying attention, and all the tools I used. Sadly, there is no time left, but these are the most used tools I used for the development. They are nearly all open source. Nearly.
Thank you very much, Simon. I know that we are out of time, but is there any questions? 1, 2? He was faster, so I go to him.
How much time did it take you to make this game?
So I started 2020, but there it was just on my free time, so maybe I programmed some hours a day. But a year ago, I quit my job, and I put all my time in this game, so let's say 1 full year and 4 years of free time. So I can't give you exact numbers, but that is more or less the overall time.